Hi again, everyone. I'm now joined by Deepak Chopra, founder of Chopra Foundation and the health company Chopra Global. Most of us know Deepak for his extensive body of work on wellness and mindfulness, long before those became buzzwords. And his latest book is Meta Human, Unleashing Your Infinite Potential. It's all about transcending our personal limits, which is probably something we all could use a little help with these days. Deepak, thanks so much for making the time to join us.
Thank you.
So how long have you been on lockdown now?
Ever since it started, so I would say more than 6 weeks.
So many of us are in a situation where we're starting to feel stir crazy, just trapped. Do you have any advice for us?
Well, what's really happening right now is that the world is going through what I could call a grieving process. Grief is when you lose something that you assumed was normal, that you took for granted. There are stages of grief. First there's denial, then there's anger, then there's frustration, then there's helplessness, then there's resignation. But ultimately, for those of us who want to be aware, there has to be acceptance. You have to accept what's happening right now, because if you don't, there's no solution. There's only panic and the recycling of panic, irrational behavior, stress, inflammation, compromising the immune system, etc. If you don't accept. So don't resist, accept what is happening, and then ask yourself. Once you get to acceptance, then you can ask yourself, what does it mean? And to me, right now, the meaning is, why do we take existence for granted? I'm a physician. I see patients, and very frequently, when they are in the throes of a heart attack, they have maybe 1 hour, 2 hours to live, they suddenly realize that they took existence for granted. And then they go through these stages that I just told you about. Now the whole world is going through this.
So I love that idea of not taking existence for granted, but I want to take a couple steps back. Like, how do we even sort of get to the place of acceptance in the first place?
No, it's actually the fifth or sixth stage. You go through all the previous stages: denial, anger, frustration, resignation, helplessness, and then you suddenly realize you can't do anything other than accept. Can you change the situation as of this moment? And so the first thing you do is you close your eyes and say, what am I grateful for? That's it. Close your eyes, say, what am I grateful for? See what comes up in the form of a sensation or an image or a feeling or a thought. And you'll find, wow, in spite of all that's going on, I'm grateful. First of all, I exist. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I'm relatively better off than a lot of people. I'm grateful that there is love in my life. I'm grateful I can receive and give love. I'm grateful for my friends, for my family, for my community. At this moment, even for the world, which is coming together. So the moment you ask yourself, what are you grateful for? Suddenly all the stress goes away. Try it. You'll see immediately inflammation goes down, inflammatory markers go down, the body relaxes, and suddenly now you have meaning. And once you go from acceptance to meaning, then you reinvent your life, which is what I'm doing. Reinventing my body, resurrecting my soul, sharing with other people what we can do to reinvent ourselves completely at every level.
Do you recommend this practice of sitting quietly with ourselves and thinking about what we're grateful for? Is this a daily thing we have to do, a weekly thing, or just when we feel ourselves slipping?
Well, I keep a gratitude journal. So before I go to sleep, I just write down, what am I grateful for that happened today?
Hmm.
Then whatever comes, I jot it down and look at it. I suddenly feel good. Now you can also ask other questions. Who am I beyond my perceptual experience of a body? What do I really want for myself, for the world? Do I have a purpose? So once you start asking those questions, even if you don't want to answer them, that's fine. Just ask the questions, see what comes up. You'll get a sensation, an image, a feeling, a thought, an emotion, an insight, an inspiration, a creative epiphany, an encounter, a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. That's it.
So this is obviously a moment of extraordinary pain and anxiety and heartbreak for so many people in the world. Is there something that is positive about this pandemic that we can learn, that we can appreciate from it?
Look at the big picture. Okay, viruses have existed since life existed. Viruses are part of a community called the microbiome. They are responsible for 99% of the genetic information in your body. So viruses, fungi, bacteria create the enrichment of life in your microbiome. Coronaviruses have existed forever. This is the latest mutation. And mutations, in my view, occur when the ecosystem of existence, your body is an ecosystem. The cells in your body are ecosystems. Even your DNA is an ecosystem. And what is it? An ecosystem of life, of the biosphere. There are two kinds of biospheres. One is the biological experience you're having of your own body.
Mhm.
Then there's the extended biosphere. The air is your breath. The stars give you the atoms that make your body. The rivers are your circulation. The trees are your lungs. And suddenly they're all actually getting better. The birds are singing. The sky is clearer. The waters look bluer. In Hyderabad, where is the extreme pollution, people are breathing for the first time. The Himalayas can be seen from hundreds of miles away. Fish are returning to even the canals of Venice. So the ecosystem, the biosphere, is repairing itself right now. And as a result of that, your biological biosphere is also repairing itself because the two go together. Some of the research is showing that it's pollution more than ever that has actually exacerbated the weather patterns, movement patterns, the mass movement across the world. All that has quieted down. It also, we now know that it's possible to live in an oil-free economy. All that is changing right now. So when we come out of this, I hope we'll move collectively in a direction where we don't see the pandemic as a curse, but as an opportunity to reverse climate change, help sustainability, create a world with more peace, social and economic justice, healthier and happier and joyful.
So much of your work, it does exactly what you just did in that answer, which is take problems and solutions and globalize them. And
every adversity, it's a cliche, but it's a profound cliche. Every adversity is an opportunity in disguise.
so I love that. And I want to take it back again to the personal, which is so many of us, again, are in a point in this pandemic where it's like we've been locked down for 9 weeks, 2 months, whatever it's been. And people are really hitting a wall. They're lonely. What sort of practices do you recommend in addition to the gratitude journal, in addition to trying to think about, who we are outside of our...
We are social animals. All primates are social animals. All mammals are social animals. It's unnatural to be isolated and also to be physically distant. It's unnatural. Mammals thrive on touching, cuddling, cooing, kissing, hugging, engaging all the time. That's how a mother bonds with the baby. Now we can't do that. Okay, so we have to accept that, number one, but this is an opportunity for us to become more intimate with ourselves. And when you become intimate with yourself, you become intimate with others. So you can be intimate with others right now through the technologies we have. You could be intimate with the world. You could give somebody in South Africa a dopamine hit just by sending them an emoticon with a kiss or a hug. You can create pandemics of serotonin, dopamine, opiates, and oxytocin in the neural networks of the globe right now.
Pandemics of kindness. I love that.
This is what I do. Make two people happy today. Just two people in your life. Send them an emoticon and give them four things. Attention, which means listening. Appreciation, tell them you admire them for the gift they bring to you as their presence. Affection, tell them you love them. And acceptance, don't try to change them. And then do that with two people and let them do that with two people. And we have a global pandemic of happiness.
A chain letter of happiness.
That's right.
That's wonderful. Do you find that you're able to connect with people over video and text?
Yes, I'm doing a lot of that, but I'm also looking at some of the very interesting data that's coming out. If you do it, these days everybody's modeling, modeling the pandemic, modeling how many infections, how many people are dying. And you can see there's a diversity of models, and the information we're getting from different parts of the world is very diverse. But two things have become clear. One is that those who have chronic illness, chronic depression, chronic anxiety, and chronic inflammation, which happens, by the way, in certain demographics. So if you live in a zip code, which is very impoverished, and that's why African Americans and other minorities and people of color are getting more sick, because if you look at their zip code, everything is compromised. Education, jobs, sanitation, conditions of living, socioeconomic status, crime, all of that is compromised. So they are getting sick, but also the elderly are getting sick because they have infirmity and chronic illness. But now something else is happening. Younger people are getting sick too. And what we are finding is that all of the people who are getting sick either have chronic inflammation, and then on top of that, they have what is called an inflammatory storm. So their body goes into inflammatory chaos. If you practice meditation, mindful awareness, deep breathing, reflective self-inquiry, the way we mentioned, gratitude, little bit of exercise, anything that does enhances mind-body coordination like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or martial arts. And you can do this all online, by the way. You can do it on Zoom. You can attend any class. You will start to counteract the stress, which is as dangerous for morbidity and mortality as the infection itself. So there's infection, there's financial concern, and there's stress, and they're all entangled. Start with managing your stress. You'll make better financial decisions. You'll start to feel better biologically, and then you'll be able to help others.
And send a text message too, sending on that pandemic of kindness and goodwill.
Spread it. Let's create another pandemic of joy, happiness, love, compassion, empathy, insight, inspiration, creativity. We're in this together. And also not use this metaphor of violence, war on COVID-19. These coronaviruses are very useful for our survival, and this will go away. I guarantee you that everything has a life cycle. These things have occurred for hundreds of years. We just don't have memories. My father spoke about the Holocaust. My grandparents spoke about the First World War. Every century when these things have happened, humans have come out stronger, more creative, new technologies have come out. All this is happening right now.
Absolutely. So this too shall pass. And we have to end the conversation there. But I want to ask you what you're going to write in your journal tonight.
Well, one thing I'm grateful for is the opportunity to speak to you so we can actually help people see the opposite of what they're going through. Every experience contains its opposite. So whatever experience you have, the opposite is there, and there's everything in between. So, there's, of course, stress, panic, recycling of inflammation, but there's also creativity. So all I want to say is the worst use of imagination is stress. The best use of imagination is love and creativity. So the mantra should be love in action, and then the rest will take care of itself.
I love that. Thank you so much for being with us, Deepak. It was an absolute pleasure.